you a fan of the Dragon Ball Super card game? If so, check out QueenCityGaming.com for sealed product, singles, and more. Just use promo code MafubaJar-10 to save 10% off your order every time.
Welcome back to the Mafuba Jar. We've been sitting away for another amazing deck profile. And today, guys, I'm going to be profiling for you what I was probably the absolute most hyped about. There's actually a couple things I was pretty hyped about with Clash of Fates, but it's the Bardock's crew stuff that I was, for the most part, 100% hyped on. And finally, it's here in my hands, finished. I was actually wanting to hold off showing this one because I was testing out some versions of it, because there's a couple of different ways you can build it. But first, let me actually go over the cards themselves. So it all revolves around our leader here, Bardock. Love Bardock, by the way. And his item is a burst 2, you draw a card, and whenever you attack your opponent's leader, you mill 2, draw a card, and he gains 5,000 power for the duration of the turn. So right off the bat, he becomes a 15,000 attacker, which is really, really cool. Especially in case your opponent awakens before you do, you could still keep up pace with them, which is really awesome. And he awakens at 4 life by switching to energy to active mode. And then we have Bardock, Hope of the Sands. I love this artwork so much. Just Bardock and all of his crew there. And he's got 2 autos. First one, Sparking 5. When he attacks, you draw a card and he gains 5k for the duration of the turn. So he becomes a 20k swinger that draws you. So that's really, really cool right there. And the second auto is very interesting. When this card is attacked, if a Bardock's crew card is in your drop area, you may choose 1 card from your life, placing in the drop area if you do negate the attack. And that's where this actually gets kind of stupid, because that's not once per turn. You could do that as many times as your attack. So a perfect example would be a Shenron deck. When they activate to give one of the cards triple attack, you just use this 3 times to negate the attacks and you'll most likely survive that turn, which normally you wouldn't survive, especially with Gogeta. Like, this guy can survive a Gogeta if you have 4 life when that Gogeta attacks, which is completely stupid. But yeah. So he did say Bardock's crew, that's the archetype we're really going to be working with here. And some Bardock's crew stuff is actually really, really good. Perfect example would be the 4 copies of Burnish Bond Borgos that I run here. This is becoming quickly a very much of a blue staple in general. So he's a 1-drop that when you play him, draws a card. We've seen plenty of cards like that. But it's his second auto that really makes him stand out. And that is, during your opponent's turn, if your opponent switches your energy to active mode using anything that's not an awakened skill, you get to pick one of their energy and place it in the owner's drop area. So pretty much during their turn, if they decide to Senzu Bean or do anything that would have them restand energy that's not an awaken, you get to discard one of their energy. So it's really, really insane. Makes it so your opponent basically can't play Senzu Bean or anything until they deal with this. So this pretty much puts them on a Senzu Bean lock, which is really just disgusting. And we also here have 3 copies of Planetary Invader Vasha. This is basically your searcher for your Bardock's crew cards. You look at your top 5 to get out of Bardock's crew. Now it's a little weird that it's not top 7, but honestly, can't really complain too much. At least we have a searcher. There's plenty of archetypes out there that don't even have a searcher, and it is sad. Alright, next up here, going to be playing 4 copies of Crisis Crusher Son Goku. Now, I did try the feature rare Blue Goku that we got in Clash of Fates. It's not that it was bad, but it just took a little longer to bring out than I would have liked. At least with this guy, his permanent is that if there's no battle cards in play in your battle area, you reduce his cost by 2. So you can play on your first turn if you've got nothing out. And players can't attack with battle cards with energy cost of 1. So pretty much anything like, say, Trunks, Kaba, Gohan, Pan, they can't attack. No one can attack with us, which is just disgusting. And the activate meta is you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 1 and KO it once per turn. So if they do decide to play other 1-drops, like for example the Borgos, because as I said, this is becoming a staple in a lot of decks. You get to knock out Borgos every turn so that your Senzu Beans aren't shut down. And not to mention, there's still other 1-drops you can knock out with them too. As I said, this can also be the 2-drop feature rare Goku, because there are some benefits to the feature rare. Because instead of energy cost of 1, the Goku has energy cost up to 2, and it does have barrier. So it is very nice. But as I said, I personally found when I played it that it was just taking a little too long to get out. So yeah, that's my reasoning for Crisis Crusher. But as I said, feature rare Goku, the blue one, works just as well. And for our super combo here, we're going to be running 4 copies of Great Saiyaman Town Hero. Now, I don't run the, I don't run a super combo that comes with the Bardock one, because it's nice and all, but it happens when you're at 5 life. And with a deck like this, that could take a little long, especially one that has the burst on its side here. So why not run a super combo that you could utilize immediately? The only time I would be running the super combo with this is if I was using the Future Punch mechanic, which in this particular build, I'm not using that Future Punch, but if you're using Future Punch, then yeah, that super combo is necessary for it. So instead of involving life, you get to draw a card whenever you're at 5 cards in your drop area, which is practically immediately. So that's why I picked the Great Saiyaman much quicker. And here's where some of our stuff here begins. We have 4 copies of Burnished Bonds Tora. Has Barrier. Permanent is that if there is a Bardock crew in your drop area, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. So he becomes a 2-drop if you have a Bardock's crew in your drop area. And he has an Activate main for 3 blue energy. You place this card in its owner's drop area, choose up to 1 Final Strike Bardock from your deck or drop area, and play it. Then shuffle your deck, of course. So a much quicker way to get out this guy here. Yes, I have the very pretty special rares. And these are the Final Strike Bardocks. Now, I only run 2 of them because of its permanent, that you can only have 1 Final Strike Bardock in your battle area. Which I don't like that, but it is what it is. He's got Barrier also, so that's definitely good. And the thing with this card is that when this card switches from rest mode to active mode, if the Bardock's crew is your leader, then when he switches to active mode, your opponent has to take a card from their hand and place it at the bottom of their deck. And that's not once per turn, and we do have ways to switch him to active mode repeatedly. So pretty much the point of everything is to have the Bardock just keep going back and forth from rest to awaken, rest to active, and just keep having our opponent have to get rid of cards. So that's the main point of that. And the first way we have to restand our Bardock here is going to be 4 copies of Burnished Bonds Fasha. So she's a 3-drop with critical, which is nice, and her permanent is the same as the Tora, to where her energy cost is reduced by 1 if there's a Bardock's crew in your drop area. And her activate means you place this card in the owner's drop area, choose up to 1 Bardock's crew card in your battle area, and switch it to active mode. So pretty much what I like to do is I like to just save my energy, have a bunch of Fashas out, keep attacking with my Bardock, just send my Fashas to the drop area, and just keep having the Bardock restand itself. So that's one way you could go about it. Though my only personal comment with the Fasha is that even though critical's nice, I would have much rather this had Barrier. Just like the Tora, if this would have had Barrier, I think it would have been so much better. But critical's not so bad either. And something to help along with what we're trying to do here. We've got 4 copies of Sneak Attack Vegeta. Since the point of our big boss monster here is to minimize our opponent's hand, why not run cards that further that? So this card does have Barrier, which that's very good. And the auto is when this card attacks a leader card, your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand and places it on top of their deck. So just really adds on to what we're trying to do here by minimizing our opponent's hand. And yeah, just a big fan he has Barrier too means he's not exactly easy to deal with. And even if they do try to get rid of him, they have to spend resources to attack him. So definitely good. And speaking of Vegeta, basically you cannot run a blue deck without running at all costs Vegeta. It's just not possible. Auto is, you play this card, you draw a card, and you get to restand energy. Always good. So activate main knows where he gets stupid. You pick 2 cards from your life and add them to your hand, and he gains 3,000 power for each energy you have until the duration of your turn. And if you had 5 or more energy when you did this, you get to knock out one of your opponent's battle cards, and this card will gain triple strike. So at 5 energy, you activate his effect, he becomes a 35 triple strike attacker that knocked out one of your opponent's cards. So, just really stupid. And he's really the only way I run here to take life, but I have another answer to that. And you'll be quite shocked by it. Alright. Alright, so now for the extra stuff, I run 4 Dimension Magic. Okay, I lied. The Vegeta is not the only way to awaken yourself. I lied on that. Dimension Magic could also do it too. You, of course, for those of you who don't know what Dimension Magic does, you can only place if your leader card is blue, but you pay 1 and you get to restand 2 blue energy. And the Sparking 5 is that if you have 5 or more cards in your drop area, you get to activate this card by taking a life instead of paying it energy. So that is another way we have to help ourselves awaken. And next up here, of course, we have Senzu Bean. Even though Borgos is definitely a thing, decks still can't afford to not run Senzu Bean if they can. It's just too good. And as I said, we're a little bit more okay on that part because we do have the Crisis Crusher. So you shouldn't have to worry too much about Borgos against you with Senzu Bean. And of course, to help speed things up, we are going to be running 4 copies of Objection. Just because energy acceleration, especially in a deck like this, it's absolutely necessary. Oops. Knock that over a bit there. Alright, and next up was probably one of the prettiest looking cards in this set, in my opinion. It's going to be 3 copies of Tora's Red Armband. Now, if your leader card's a Bardock's Crew, you choose a blue Tora in your drop area, send it to your warp, and you draw 4 cards. So, even though it's a hefty 4-drop, it definitely pays off with that right there. And you get to choose up to 1 Final Strike Bardock in your battle area. You switch it to active mode. It gains 10,000 power and double strike for the duration of the turn. And at the end of the turn, you get to restand 1 of your energy. So it was pretty much a 3-drop for this. So really awesome there. So not only do you have your Fashas to restand, but you also have Tora's Red Armband to restand this guy. So you've got ways to restand him and just keep forcing your opponent to get rid of cards. Not to mention, like I said, this is probably one of my favorite looking cards in this set, especially the special rare. Like, I managed to get both special rares for the Bardock, but I have not gotten a special rare for the Tauras yet. Which I would honestly love to include those in these decks. Because I'm usually not one to bling out my deck, but Bardock's Crew, that's different for me. I just love this mechanic so much. It's so much fun. And my last card, as I said, you would be shocked. Result of Training. This is a card we have not seen in quite some time. Like, since like the set 1 meta, honestly. Like, it's such an old card, but for this particular deck, I feel like it could work. So, for those of you who have no idea what this card is, it costs 5 energy, yes. During this turn, you may activate your leader card's Awaken even if you have 5 or more life. So you don't have to be at 4 life to awaken your leader the turn you play this. And you get to restand 4 of your energy, so you basically only pay 1 energy to use this. And there have been plenty of times where I have just not been able to get my Awaken, even with Vegeta. Because honestly, there were so many times to where playing Vegeta was actually not beneficial for me whatsoever. So, that's why the Results of Training here. If your opponent decides to grind you and just slow you down, then boom, you've got this right here. And hey, if they keep going aggro on you, you keep ganking it, then guess what? It's free energy. So honestly, that's my reasoning behind Results of Training. It might seem a little weird, but it's just a personal choice of mine. If you have any other choices you would put in instead, by all means, go for it. This is just kind of like one of the ways you could run this deck. Honestly, you really don't even have to play the Bardock's Crew engine to have a good Bardock deck. Matter of fact, there was a red-blue at a recent big PPG tournament that did pretty well. So it's weird. Like, I personally think the Bardock's Crew engine is really fun, but there are ways to make this guy work even without it. So, yep, that'll about do it for this deck profile here of what's probably, in my opinion, the most fun deck to play in all of Clash of Fates. But again, that's just my opinion. So, if you guys like this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel for more awesome content. Here all the time for DBS stuff. And yeah, not gonna want to miss any of it. So, with that, guys, I hope you have a fantastic day, and you've been released.